Hi, I'm Scott Garibay, and this is one of my non-player characters in a video. And today's non-player character is going to be from the Deadlands tabletop role-playing game. So this was published back in the late 90s. Really fantastic tabletop role-playing game. This cover is by Brom, and he's just really wonderful, very, very talented tabletop role-playing game artist. Actually, I think he really kind of started in tabletop role-playing games, and his work actually just really went on from there. So this is a player character that I played in the early 2000s. I was blessed to be in a tabletop role-playing game group. I live on the eastern side of the United States of America, and so I was in a tabletop role-playing game. And the makeup of the tabletop role-playing team, it was people in their 30s. So I was in my 30s then, early 30s. And there was a married couple, and the wife ran the game. And then there was two single 30-year-old guys, and I was married at the time. And so that was kind of the makeup. But the reason why I always mention that, the makeup of the teams is I'm really kind of fascinated by tabletop role-playing games and really want to see there are diverse groups. The other thing is I'm really interested in is tabletop role-playing games continuing to be tabletop role-playing games. And so I think they're really special, just friends gathering around the table. And as we become more technologically savvy, I'm a technology professional, and but I really feel like tabletop role-playing games, it's one of my most favorite hobbies, and it is because I am taking a break from technology. And so if you're going to take a break from technology, there's few things you can do that just are more wonderful than tabletop role-playing games that really have more of a social interaction. And we would actually have dinner, beforehand. It's just a great group. It's one of the many great groups that I've been blessed to be involved in. I've been role-playing since 1982, since I was about 12. And so that's a lot of years. That's 32 years now. And so this was just one of the groups that I was in. And so we were playing Deadlands, and had a female GM. That's really kind of neat. They're not as populous as male GMs, and the woman who ran this was excellent. She really did a great job for us. She really had a heart for the system. It's called Deadlands is actually not a lot of people know about the game that now. I don't think it's one of the hotter games right now. With the Theater of the Mind games really kind of blooming up, but it was really unusual game. And so they called it the Spaghetti Western with Meat. And so it's kind of a cool tagline on the back. And it was really unusual. So it was a Weird West tabletop role-playing game. So I love Westerns. And this is even stranger than that. So there's supernatural mixed in. And, of course, like any good Western, it takes place just shortly after the Civil War, like I think 1870s, 1880s. And that's always an exciting time because you got gunslingers roaming around, these guys who were trained in the Civil War just to be soldiers, not really gunslingers. And then they don't really have anything to do, and so they might be sad, or they might be disgruntled, or they might have post-traumatic stress. So it's just a great setting. And so also you basically you have all the excitement of a regular Western game, but then you have the supernatural element in it. So and there's also all the tension between literally cowboys and Indians. So you have cowboys, gunslingers, and then you have Indians who are shamans, and because there's a supernatural element, their shaman power is quite powerful, right? Also, there's a preacher type in this game, so and it was really interesting, the preacher types, and then this game had a mechanic that was really unique, that you haven't seen that often in many other games, and that is so basically when your character died in this game, they could become harrowed, which means that basically, when you died, you actually rolled they would put you in the ground, they would bury you, and because there was so much supernatural power in this time, in this different, Deadlands world, you could return as an undead character, right? And then essentially you were playing like a controlled zombie. It was really unusual, right? So it's just one of the unusual aspects of this game. So the actual non-player character that I wanted to talk about today is Cavaho, and so he was the player character that I ran, and I'm kind of packaging him up to be used as a non-player character in your Deadlands campaign. All right, and so Cavaho was a Mattapanai Indian, and he's actually, since I wrote him up, he's based off of my tribe. Actually, I'm Basque, and I'm also Native American. And so I'm descended from the Mattaponi tribe. They're a tribe that still exists and still has reservation land today in Virginia. And actually, my grandmother had land on the reservation, right? It was really kind of unusual. And so one of the reasons I'm going to talk about a little bit about my own history here, and I don't feel like that's too much of a diversion because, tabletop role-playing games are extremely personal, and really they help you explore different aspects of your own nature and explore your own history, right? So one of the things that was kind of unusual was my parents, my mother is Native American, and so when I went away to college, it was really kind of unusual for me because I realized that I didn't know anything about my heritage. I knew I was Native American, but I didn't know really anything about my tribe or anything, right? And I was really blessed to find a full Native American, blooded mentor, and so I kind of discovered, kind of explored my own Native American heritage when I was in college, and it is a little bittersweet because one of the things that was really unusual was my like I said, my grandmother actually had land on the reservation, and so we were tied in with, I have quite a bit of Native American blood in me. So I always really kind of wondered why my mother had never really, said, hey, let's learn about your Native American heritage. And I talked to her later about it, and she said, me and your father, we taught you how to read, and we really encouraged you to go to college, and we really felt that this was your future, and that really your Native American heritage is your past, right? And I really felt very strongly, when I was a college kid, people are pretty opinionated. I'm still pretty opinionated, but, I was kind of headstrong and young. I was like, you should have taught me all about my Native American heritage. That's the path I should have followed. I should be riding a buffalo right now, And, I'm really a little bitter that she hadn't really delved more into my heritage. And so my parents were like, you're an American, and we think that your future is really in education, being educated and getting a good technology job and, going down that path. And I really felt they were very wrong. Now, it's been 20 years since I graduated from college. Actually, 82, and now it's been 30 years since I graduated college. No, 20, sorry. Wait. 92. I graduated college in 92. Sorry for all that math there. And so, it's been 20 years since I graduated college with my first degree, which is a political science degree. And so, but what really happened was my mom was right, and this is really sad, and it's really kind of difficult for me to understand. But the people in my family who stayed on the reservation really struggled, and they struggled a lot, and they struggled with all kinds of terrible issues. And the people who moved past their Native American heritage and just kind of embraced their American heritage and just embraced, living in this modern society have done much, much better. And, and that's a really harsh reality for me to think about. But I really kind of explored this, I really kind of explored this in playing this Mattaponi Indian in this game, this Deadlands game. And so the character's name was Cavaho, and he was a Mattaponi Indian, and he was a gunslinger. So he was a Native American gunslinger, and he was a really interesting character. I really enjoyed playing him. He had two other members on his team. He had a preacher. These were played by other players, and so I'm just gonna, and so those player characters, I'm just gonna tell you their names, not really flesh them out because they belong to those other two players. And so just kind of mention that they're connected to Cavaho in that he adventured with them for a time. And so there was an Irish kid, P.D. O'Toole. There was an Irish kid, and it was actually a kid concept. And so he was this really competent, quick, crafty, almost thief-like kid, right? I think he was like 12 or 13, which was really interesting because the guy who played him, he was like 30, and he said, I want to play this crafty, really crafty, competent kid type, which was really challenging because it kind of limited some of the adventures we went on. But we always, like in any good tabletop role-playing game, somebody wants to play a concept, we work with them to work it out, and we did work it out, and it was really some interesting adventures. And so there's P.D. O'Toole, and he could sneak around, he'd steal dynamite and steal money, and I think the Short Round in the second Indiana Jones movie, very, very similar. Like just super competent kid that got in the middle of danger and was always right there at the last minute when somebody needed a help, and the kind of kid that was really kind of grew up on the streets and really It's a really interesting character. So that was P.D. O'Toole. And then another one was this Preacher Man. And so the Preacher Man, he had a Bible. And in Deadlands, if you're a Preacher Man, you have some serious mojo. Like, so, you know, your faith is actually a serious power in this game, which is really kind of cool. And actually, what's ironic was this Bible-thumping preacher was played by a Buddhist. You know, played by the person who played him was a Buddhist, and he did a great job playing the character. And that's one of the, again, just one of the wonderful things about tabletop role-playing games is just the ability to explore all these different cultures and all these different traditions, and just, you know, it's limitless. And that's the thing I love about tabletop role-playing games is it's absolutely limitless. The stories you can tell, the people you can be, the adventures you can have. You know, just there's no limits, and it's really wonderful. And I have really wonderful memories of this particular campaign. So, and the Preacher Man, his name was Justin Case. So Justin Case is kind of a clever name, and so that was another person that Cavaho traveled with. So now the reason why Cavaho actually would go out and actually have adventures was back at the Mattaponi tribe back in Virginia, where the Mattaponi tribe is actually located today. Basically, he had a brother, and the brother was the shaman of the tribe. He was chosen to replace the old shaman, and he was the new shaman. And so, you know, basically, Cavaho really had nothing to do at the tribe. His brother was the main man, and Cavaho and him had a lot of beef. They really didn't get along. And so he really didn't have anything to do there at the tribe. He was really, you know, just living in his brother's shadow. And he said, you know what, I'm going to go make my way in the white man's world. So he went out and he came along and he actually served with a gunslinger, just making sure that, you know, took care of his horse, traveled with him, you know, kept watch at night, that kind of thing. And the gunslinger taught him how to gunsling. Right? And so Cavaho had 2 silver 6 guns. And he was always ready to have gunfights in the streets at high noon. And he went around building his name as a gunslinger. And he was, you know, like, this is unusual. I almost always play a hero. And I didn't choose this game because this game's pretty dark for me. But the people I was blessed to be friends with, they really wanted to play it, so I got on board. And so this guy was less a hero. It's more neutral alignment than any other player. I think any other player character I've ever played. And so he did a lot of gunslinging and killed a lot of dudes. And it was great because you actually got to play, you know, you actually got to role play the gunfights at high noon, and your character could die. I mean, just like that, right? So it also makes me think. I've always wanted to play aces and eights, and I also I played Boot Hill for a very short amount of time, but I love Western games. But the Western games are challenging. Tabletop Western games are very challenging. It's hard to get people around the table for a tabletop Western game because, one, there's no healing, and so people die pretty quickly. And that people aren't real hot on that. Aces and Eights is a really special game put out by Kensrud Company, I believe. And that one had actually a grid, had like this overlay, almost like what you would see with one of those old projectors. It had this clear overlay with it was a very unusual tabletop role-playing game that actually had a clear overlay with a silhouette of a gunslinger, and where that gunslinger, actually a silhouette of a cowboy, and where the gunslinger would shoot you. And literally all these terrible things would happen when you were shot. So it's one of the reasons why, you know, it's so hard to get people to play westerns, right? So one of the things is healing was much more available in this game. There's these guys named hucksters, and hucksters in Deadlands could actually do healing. Shamans could do healing. Preacher men could do healing. And so it really had some of the same cleric activity that you would see in a standard fantasy role-playing game. One of the reasons why people love fantasy role-playing games is if your character dies, you can literally be resurrected. So your character, the time you invest in making your character, you get a better return on it because you're going to be able to play them longer, even if they die. And here, same thing, in Deadlands, they have the ability to essentially resurrect your character. Now, they're really kind of a shadow of what they were previously, and it's a pretty dark situation when you're harrowed in this game, but it is really, really unique. This is a really wonderful tabletop role-playing game. Brom art in it, really, really pretty sweet. So that was Cavaho. He was a Mattaponi gunslinger for Deadlands. I hope you find him useful, and thank you very much.